Next, a community's unique use for an old quarry.
Then, how modern architecture fits into our history.
And a local program provides a doctor for old buildings.
Support for Columbus Neighborhoods is provided by American Electric Power is proud to sponsor WOSU Public Media Columbus Neighborhoods. Working together with our communities, we're committed to powering a bright, boundless future for us all.
At Ohio Health, we believe it's important to have a healthy understanding of the world around you. That's why we're proud sponsors of WOSU Public Media and their work to educate, entertain, and inspire the people we serve.
Bailey Cavalieri, your relationship with your law firm doesn't need to be complicated, it just needs to be right. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Preservation is the name of the game today. So Javier, are you up for a challenge?
Definitely, I'm always up for a challenge.
Okay, that's
Let's go.
good. Can you name the oldest building in Columbus that is still standing today?
The Ohio Stadium.
No, but that's a good guess. It's the old Franklinton Post Office. Next question, how about the oldest park in Columbus?
Franklin Park.
That would be perfect, but no, it's Goodale Park, first established in 1851. Okay, this is your final question.
Okay.
What park that was established in 1978 was created out of an old quarry?
No clue. But I think I'll find out in this next story.
You sure will. You got that one right.
This is the story of Antrim Park. It starts with a man named Everett Antrim. Everett Antrim was born in Indianapolis, Indiana in 1882. He was a son of a dairy farmer, and the family was involved in ice cream because that's a natural thing to do, dairy, ice cream. So there was about 7 family members in his family who were involved in the ice cream business, and he followed suit. He had an uncle named J. Martin Antrim who actually came to Columbus in around the early 1900s, and he was involved in a company called the Furnace Ice Cream Company. Antrim followed him out to the city while his other relatives were going all around the Midwest forming ice cream companies. He quickly rose to power in the company and soon became president. He started off in the Old Oaks neighborhood because the factory was around Grant Avenue, and they did have parlors all around the city. The ones I recall were on the south side of Columbus. Borden comes onto the scene and starts gobbling up all these other smaller businesses, Furnace Company being one of them. Him and his wife, Rowena, they decided to move out to what was considered the country then in 1920. And where he ends up moving is to just west of Olentangy River to the Williams property, which is on this map right here, just adjacent to the Worthington area. The original property was built by the Hoyt family in 1875, and after Antrim buys the property in 1921, he does a lot of renovations to the old farmhouse to make it look more modern. As Worthington and Riverly start building up in the 19teens, 20s, it's becoming less country and becoming more of a city place. Antrim is buying properties along the west side of the Olentangy River, and you can see here he's buying adjacent properties. Here he has 2 very large pieces of property, this one measuring 90 acres. This is the property around 1952. You can see that Everett has this large portion of land here, nearly 83 acres, and he's also got this additional portion, which is 31 acres. So he wants to start quarrying right next to the river. He begins to do that, except now there's the subdivision of Indian Hills right next to it. Indian Hills was land once owned by Everett Antrim, and the citizens of that subdivision are not that happy because it's loud and it's dirty. They're thinking we're going to have to deal with this quarry for a long time. What Everett ends up doing is going to the city and asking them to pass a resolution saying that he can build this quarry. The people on the city council are kind of on the fence. Some people are for it, some people are against it, but it's within 1 or 2 votes. They have to come up with some compromise. So in 1959, they do reach an agreement with city council to sell off this property to the city after 10 years of mining. They're going to mine it starting roughly in 1960 to around 1970, and at that point, they're going to let the city take control of the land. Everett Antrim dies in 1966. They're actually not finished with the quarrying operation yet. After Everett dies and the quarry operation stops, his widow, Rowena Antrim, donates $100,000 to the city to help them develop the property that was already sold to them in 1959. She makes some stipulations though. She wants to be named after her husband and there would be a shelter house. By 1975, they think it's going to cost just over $1 million to build, but ultimately what they find out is it cost them roughly $500,000 to build the park, so a lot less than they originally thought it was going to cost them. It's about 1978, 1979. So this is 315 running right along Antrim Lake, and then they build this giant running loop around the lake.
Next, how modern architecture fits into our history.
And then a local program provides a doctor for old buildings. Columbus has some great historic buildings, like the State House and the old post office.
Right, and the Lincoln Theater. And one of my personal favorites, the Columbus Public Health Building, which used to be the blind school. But have you ever noticed or wondered about the more modern buildings that are surrounding them? I know I have.
Well, look no further. Architectural historians Jeff Darby and Nancy Ritchie take us on a walking tour of modern architecture in downtown Columbus.
Well, this is Driving with Darby, but today I think we're going to do some walking. It's the best way to see what we're going to look at, which is modern architecture in downtown Columbus. A lot of people think of modern architecture mostly as high-rise office buildings. They're sort of the symbol of modern architecture in our country. We've got some great examples here in Columbus, in fact, some groundbreaking examples.
It's wonderful when you can cover just a small amount of ground and actually do an architectural history lesson at the same time.
So this will be an interesting day, an afternoon in downtown Columbus, looking at some of our iconic buildings. So crossing Capitol Square, we'll go to the southeast corner of Broad and High because it's a really good view of some of these buildings we've been talking about.
It's the best place to begin because we see the early buildings there, and then as we walk around, we can go through the decades and talk about the changes in architecture.
Well, in the Wyandotte building, the first skyscraper in Columbus, first to use the steel frame, really didn't follow very long after the steel frame was first introduced in Chicago.
Exactly. People associate skyscrapers with New York City,
Yeah.
but the birthplace is Chicago. It's a Midwestern invention, coming really on the heels of the Chicago fire.
Right.
And the, I guess, happy coincidence of perfecting the mass production of structural steel and really the elevator. Because who was going to walk up 10 or 20 flights of stairs? Right. So it was the combination of technology that allowed these dense downtown areas to develop.
Well, the State House, of course, was old construction. Stacked stone upon stone to build a bearing wall structure.
Right there, yep.
Right across the way, you've got the Ohio Theater, which looks the same way. It looks as though you stacked up stones to create it. In fact, it has a steel frame with a masonry exterior. It's a modern building in that sense. Next to the theater is the former Beggs building,
Yep.
with a Fifth Third tower added to it, similar in style. You have the Rife State Office building. You have the Huntington Bank building.
One of my favorites.
Yes, really, it's from 1984, so that's fairly late in skyscraper era here in downtown Columbus.
So here we are right in front of Capitol Square, which gives us a great view of how Capitol Square is the center of a lot of different architectural styles. So just taking a look around, you know, it covers a lot of periods, literally from 1897 to 2000?
Yeah,
Probably
it's a
2000
real
with these
textbook.
buildings. So just over my shoulder to the left is the Rhodes Tower from 1974, and then early skyscrapers, really the number 8 building and number 16 next to it, and those were designed by Frank Packard, so a prominent Columbus architect.
And those are on Broad Street.
On Broad Street.
And they were built as office buildings.
Exactly.
And Peter Hayden was associated with one of them. He was a Columbus industrialist. He had coal mines. He built Haydenville. So people important in the city are associated with some of these buildings.
And then you see the Levesque Tower peeking out behind the Huntington building. And the Levesque really was the building that changed the city skyline
Right.
in 1927. A lot of people think it looks kind of like the Empire State Building with that telescoping design. It predates the Empire,
Before the Empire State
Building.
Building,
It
that's
is
right.
earlier than the Empire State
And it was
Building.
built by an insurance organization called the American Insurance Union.
Yes.
And it was called the AIU Citadel.
Yes.
But they went bankrupt after a couple of years, having spent so much on the
Probably
building.
by, yes,
Yeah.
building the building. And
Too
the
much.
Depression didn't help, the
Didn't
stock
help.
market crash. So behind you is the Huntington building. And one of the things I love about that, not just the elegant materials, but the way the facade really kind of steps back. And it was done for corner offices with a great view of Capitol Square. But if you see those cross pieces, those structural pieces,
Right.
those are multi-story atrium sections stacked. So it really opens up to the outside, to the view, very, very different than any other skyscraper building in Columbus. And it really is because of this great view and a great reflection of the Ohio State House in that very center
It really
section.
is, and I think it was planned that
designed
way.
for that location.
Yeah, it definitely was. Well, there's more to see, more up toward the corner of Broad and High. So we're still on Capitol Square. We're approaching the corner of East Broad, South 3rd Street.
Yep. And this is a great opportunity to see how Broad Street changed over time. So we're looking at right behind us with the Chase Bank. That was the first modern skyscraper in Columbus. And what made it so important was it actually had a sunken plaza. It originally had a big fountain in front of it. That was the New York corner of Columbus when it was built in 1965.
That's what was happening in New York City.
Very
at
much
that time.
influenced by the Seagram building and other really early landmark buildings in New York, where New York City gave bonus points for plazas and space in front
So
of
you
buildings.
see how ideas like that kind of got transmitted across the
It
country.
was the latest modern thing. Within a decade, you had the building behind us, the PNC building. And the interesting thing about PNC, it's almost a little mini Sears Tower in terms of the massing of the building. But look at the very dark glass lower. Why was that, do you think?
Well, it was to feature the building, but it was also a public space. I remember there was a restaurant in there.
Yes.
People may remember this building as the Ohio National Bank building.
Right.
Later Bank Ohio, now PNC, it goes back to the mid-1970s. And the Galleria that was built around Trinity Church. Now, Trinity Church is one of those anchors in Capitol Square, 1869, Parish House from 1910, a real landmark and still very vital.
So the
landmark.
architects actually designed this low, dark glass portion to really be in scale and not compete with Trinity Church. And then the building rises behind it. And people wouldn't realize that that is connected to that big white multi-tiered building right behind.
It's
So
not
it
really
took up
apparent.
almost a whole block. And it's interesting, this was corporate architecture because we're calling these buildings the names of the banks that built them and the businesses that built them.
Right.
It was City National Bank, now Chase. It was Ohio National, now PNC. It was the Borden Building. It was the Midland Building, the Motorist Building.
Right.
They were the corporate headquarters for these buildings, and they were making a statement with their architecture that they were modern. You know, they had beautiful bank buildings that were very solid, very early 20th century. This was the looking forward from a corporate standpoint, but also very much adding to the city and the idea of skyline representing a city of the 20th century.
Well, that's a good point because they were making a commitment to downtown Columbus.
Yes, they
at
were.
a time when the city was really beginning to spread
Yes.
out into the suburbs. This still was the heart of the city.
Solidly.
And they wanted to show that they were committed to the heart of the city.
And that continued. We have the Nationwide building, we have the Huntington building, we have the AEP building.
right.
So that was something that really started in the mid 20th century and continues even today.
Well, it's been quite a day for lesson in architectural history, hasn't
It's
it?
a beautiful day to be out and walking around and enjoying the city and its rich, rich architecture.
There's a doctor for just about everything. But did you know there's a doctor for old buildings?
The Ohio History Connection has a program that helps homeowners navigate the ins and outs of maintenance and restoration in older homes.
The Building Doctor program is a program of the Ohio History Connection that was designed to give property owners of older buildings advice that's grounded in the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. What I like to tell folks is that the Building Doctors have nothing to sell but good advice. Hi, I'm Mary Angela with the Building Doctor program.
Hi, so nice to meet you. Come on inside.
Thank you.
Go this way.
Wow. You do not have painted woodwork, which is so wonderful. Was it like this when you purchased the house?
It was one of the first things that caught our eye. When we walked in here, I was walking right into this space and seeing all the windows and all of the wood that just made us really fall in love with it.
So the Building Doctor program is really designed to answer any questions that you might have. So you're going to be my guide and you're going to ask me any questions that you have, and then if I notice anything, I'll point that out to you as well. It looks like you've done a lot of work already.
Yeah. I mean, we got all the floors refinished and they've got that really nice orangey warm tone to them. And of course, what happened is that once the floors looked really great, then we started noticing that the trim was kind of dull. so we've got different samples here that we're trying to figure out, like, how do we want to do it?
So a little advice about, first of all, we'll go with the stain. There's not a thing wrong with a dark stain. It's just it's going to darken up the room for you a little bit. As far as your floor, the thing that folks need to remember about floors have a limited thickness. So they're 3/4 to 1.5 inches thick, and they don't replenish themselves overnight. So every time you sand a floor, a little bit more flooring surface is coming off. So what we suggest, what we recommend is you've just had these floors done now, keep an eye on them, and then right before they need to be done again, screen them, which just is a very light sanding, and then put your surface coat back on. What that allows you to do is not have to aggressively resand a floor again. The other thing that's important in any of these jobs that you're doing, whether it's removing paint or redoing the floor, is you want to protect yourself. So you want to wear a respirator. You want to protect your skin because things can be absorbed through your skin. And you want to turn off the brand new HVAC system that you just installed. You want to make sure that that's all turned off, and you want to cover those grates and areas because that'll keep the dust from circulating then through the system and through the house.
When we bought this place, these floors were already just plain wood. And so when we came in, we said, oh, we were going to refinish these. We're going to bring them back, make them really beautiful. But we didn't know that the kitchen floor was going to turn out so good. Can I show you that?
Absolutely.
All right, come with me. Hey, Stan.
Hi,
Hi, Mary Angela.
I'm Stan.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
So when we bought this place, the two of us did a lot of, not all of it, but a lot of the removing of the layers of everything. And so there was the tile.
There was, the tile with a backer board underneath, and then there were several layers of old flooring
linoleum.
underneath.
The thing
Great.
is, there's no subfloor. So
Sure.
we could look underneath and see, from the basement, we could see that the boards were still pretty intact.
Oh, great.
And so we just refinished the floors when we refinished those floors, and they came out looking really wonderful.
That's wonderful. And I noticed too, this woodwork appears to have been painted. So talk to me about how you got the paint off this woodwork.
This was very difficult.
Uh-huh.
We tried a lot of different methods to get it off.
Okay.
So, because this
So-
door looked like this door.
Yeah, so I think this is after I think 2 or 3 layers of paint remover already. The most effective thing we found was carbide scrapers, which work really well and don't loosen the edge, don't lose the edge as well as normal steel scrapers.
You know, I think that's really was a smart option. It's a little more elbow grease intensive, but what I like about that option is that if you can maintain control so that you don't gouge the wood, you don't have any residue. When you use a chemical stripper, what's the job of a chemical stripper? It's to strip
like eat
finish
away at
off.
things, yeah.
So you can neutralize it. You have to neutralize it in order to get your stain to really adhere well to it. But by virtue of what you've done, you've already removed that coating of paint. You just need to wipe that down so there isn't any dust, and then you're good to go with staining and all of that. But you did a great job.
Well, I'd really like to show you the bathroom.
I'd love to see it.
It's upstairs. Let's go this way. So come on in. It's a little cozy.
Wow. Look
So
at your
this is our
beautiful,
bathroom.
your floor is beautiful.
So there had been a leak in the bathroom when we bought it, and so we just stripped the whole bathroom down to studs. And more than in any other part of the house, this is the space where we wanted to really recreate that historical feel. And it's one of the places that we decided to get the window restored. The window that was here was complete, all the pieces were there, but the glass was cracked, and it has been restored. We just have to finish doing this part of it so we can put the window back in.
Sure. Well, you have your secret door out, which
Yeah.
is always interesting to folks. They don't know that they have a secret door that hides the pocket where the weights are kept, and your weights are right there.
Right there.
Yes.
The other thing I want to ask about in here is this bathroom vented?
Yeah. This light is a vent.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that pretty?
Do you know where your vent goes?
Yes.
Goes up to the outside.
Perfect.
To right there.
Because you'd be surprised at how many vents dump into an attic. And so you don't want that. You want the moisture to go outside of the house. So that's great. So I feel like I have a pretty good handle of the main floors. Would it be okay if we or do you have any questions about the attic? We could take a peek up at the attic.
Yeah, the attic's right upstairs. So
Okay.
let's go to that.
Perfect. The first thing I noticed about this attic is that it isn't super stuffy and it isn't super hot, which is really good because that means there's some ventilation that's going through. A house that breathes is healthier for the building and it's healthier for you as well. I would suggest that you pop your windows open when the weather is nice to let some cross ventilation, because you guys are blessed with windows at each end. And so you can have some cross ventilation going through.
That's a great idea.
So I would love to see your basement.
All right, let's go downstairs.
Here we are.
So it's a nice space. It smells a little damp to me, and it feels just a little bit of damp. When there is rain, do you see a little bit of standing water? Okay. The best thing that you can do for the inside is once you take care of the moisture getting into the basement is run a dehumidifier or two, but like on the next to constant mode for just a while till your basement gets really nice and dried out. We'll take a look around on the outside to see what your grading situation is, because maybe let's see if we can help water not coming into the basement.
I like that.
All right. So the important thing about a foundation outside to help keep your basement dry is to make sure that you have a positive grade away from the house. So if you see, I'm kind of sinking down towards the house, and so you want that positive grade to be away from the house. And a little trick that I learned many years ago is that once you create that positive grade, you could, if you wanted to, put a layer of plastic up that cheats a little bit up the foundation, and then maybe put a layer of river rock, which can be really pretty, so that if there really is a heavy rain, and the water comes down and hits this plastic and you've already created a positive grade out, there is no way it'll be able to get into your basement. It'll possibly help with the dampness issues and the pooling water issues that you said you've experienced in the past. So any other questions? We never go anywhere. If you have any questions for the building doctor, don't hesitate to let us know. And the 1930 houses were built really well and built to last. So congratulations and good luck with everything, and let me know if you have any follow-up questions.
We will do that.
Thanks for being with us, and remember you can catch all our episodes on columbusneighborhoods.org.
Plus, see our stories on the WOSU mobile app, and you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
We'll see you back here next week on Columbus Neighborhoods.
Support for Columbus Neighborhoods is provided by American Electric Power is proud to sponsor WOSU Public Media Columbus Neighborhoods. Working together with our communities, we're committed to powering a bright, boundless future for us all.
At Ohio Health, we believe it's important to have a healthy understanding of the world around you. That's why we're proud sponsors of WOSU Public Media and their work to educate, entertain, and inspire the people we serve.
Bailey Cavalieri, your relationship with your law firm doesn't need to be complicated, it just needs to be right. And by viewers like you. Thank you.